Hey guys, this is Mikey V. We're doing attempt number 2 at this live stream. I did one of these a few minutes ago. I reviewed it, and my audio cut out on me. So I'm doing this again with the audio for the microphone turned way up. Um, okay. I wanted to go over this China spy balloon thing that's going on. And a lot of people are trying to say that this is a I'm trying to say it's a weather balloon that got loose. I'm going to try and dispel that as best I can right now. Um, I got some pictures and some stuff to kind of go over this with you guys. So here's the balloon with like extreme magnification. Um, you look at this thing, it's got some solar panels on it. It's got a gondola with maybe some scientific stuff on it or some monitoring equipment, but there's solar panels on it. It looks like there's probably about 6 or 8 panels on it. It kind of looks like some of them snapped off um, from the looks of it. So, um, yeah, I don't think this is a weather balloon that got loose. You don't send sophisticated equipment like that in the upper atmosphere, uh, you know, and let it loiter for long periods of time. There's better ways of doing this. Um, so, you know, a weather balloon has a very specific design and purpose to it. So, in this illustration that I've got here, um, you can see you got a 5 foot balloon. It's got a parachute on it, and it's got a payload. This is often called a radiosonde. Um, in the scientific community, you're supposed to, you know, send these back through the mail. Actually, believe it or not, the sondes, when they fall to the ground, the parachute's supposed to help slow them down. If you ever come across one, they have prepaid postage on them. You're supposed to just stick them in a mailbox and back to the scientist they go. Um, so it's real common here in the U.S. for us to do this. The whole point is this is a latex balloon. It's designed to go in the upper atmosphere or some of them lower atmosphere. It depends on whatever scientific project you're working on. Um, and so the whole point is this goes up a certain altitude and then it bursts. Um, they pop basically. It's got helium in it, and helium is a certain percentage per square foot, a certain size per square foot at our atmosphere or our altitude. But in upper altitude, the atmospheric pressures expand or drop, causing the balloon to expand because the gas is expanding, and it bursts at high altitude. And that's how you recover your payload. And these things just don't float off into outer space. Um, so that's basically the premise of a conventional weather balloon, and they carry a load that's usually not more than about 6 pounds. There's a 9-volt battery in there. There's a transmitter. There may be like a barometer or a thermostat. Uh, these things, they just basically they go up in the upper atmosphere. They send out a beep. They send out tones, and certain tones can dictate certain things, like a telephone used to. Back in the day, we had switchboards with telephones, and the noise the phone would make, when you're actually mashing buttons, would tell the system, and they still do that to this day. It's just more complicated. Would tell the system what number you pressed, and that's kind of the same thing with some of these songs. If they got a certain tone for upper atmosphere stuff and what altitude is, what the pressure is, things of that nature, and there's a receiver on the ground that picks it up. So this is not a weather balloon. This is too sophisticated. Weather balloons don't have they don't have altitude control. So back in the 1940s during World War II, the Japanese had this guy, and this is the Japanese balloon bomb, and it's carried by a balloon that was, if you can believe it or not, was made out of rice paper, and they put it in our airspace by cutting it loose in the jet stream in the winter. There's actually a jet stream that carries currents over to the Pacific Northwest. It has actually caused a lot of trouble for us during World War II. So this is not uncommon for, to travel this way, through that jet stream. There was a guy, he jumped out of a high altitude balloon back in the 50s or the 60s. They were testing what upper atmosphere stuff would do to you for space travel. So they put this guy in a balloon, sent him up, and he jumped out. He actually blacked out in the free fall, believe it or not. And then we had a guy do it for Red Bull not too long ago. But that's neither here nor there. That's off topic. But yeah, so this thing's not a weather balloon. I don't care what you say. I think they're correct in not shooting this thing down. It may make you angry that they're not shooting this thing down. This thing's huge. So that means it's carrying a fairly heavy payload. Now, you may think 80 or 90 pounds isn't heavy, but you have to understand helium can only lift 0.069 pounds per cubic foot. Cubic foot's huge. You get a cubic foot of something. It's a cube. It's literally a foot that's a cube. And you have nothing but helium in it. And that can lift like less than 1/10 of a pound. So, so it takes a large balloon to lift heavy objects, especially if it's using helium. Now, if it's using hydrogen, it has a little bit more oomph behind it. But that also is a hazmat, and it's hazardous material. Think of the Hindenburg. This thing's probably not made out of latex. It's probably made out of some polycarbonate plastic or a nylon, which kind of surprises me that it's still up in the upper atmosphere, like it hasn't deflated, because helium is a really small molecule. It works its way out of places and escapes. That's why we're running out of it. It's because it's floating out of whatever containment vessels it's in and floating in the upper atmosphere. So, we don't really have a way to make industrial helium. Helium is a byproduct of either nuclear reactions or, certain rocks breaking down, byproduct of the, that process. So, a lot of effort went into this thing, basically. It's got some solar panels on it, so they intended it to be in the upper atmosphere for longer than what a conventional battery could run for. More than likely, this thing has lithium-ion batteries in it. Lithium-ion batteries are a lot lighter than a lead-acid battery, which would be what you would use in this system. I used to work for a company that sold motorcycle batteries, and we had an option for a lithium-ion battery and a lead-acid battery. The lead-acid battery for a really small motorcycle, was probably about 15 or 20 pounds. The lithium-ion was probably about 1.5 pounds. So, and they both provided the same amount of amperage hours and the same amount of power. They're both 12 volts. So, real easily, there could be a bunch of batteries on there. And to that point, if you shoot this thing down, you could have a lithium-ion fire. And a lithium-ion is a chemical burn. It is not like a conventional fire, so you can't just put it out with a water hose. You have to have a specialized extinguisher to put this out. So, your typical municipal fire department has to call in a hazmat unit to put out a chemical fire of that nature. Now, granted, batteries may not burn for that long. Lithium burns up quick, but you still have to deal with that. If it falls on a house, a vehicle, God forbid, some industrial site, you have really bad potential for an uncontrolled fire there. Um, so, you know, that's just something else you have to be worried about. Um, so, yeah, I think they made the right call on that, not shooting it down. Um, you know, I don't know what else to say. I got people saying, oh, it's just a weather balloon. It got loose, this, that, and the other. No, it's not. There's no way. Not for the path they sent it up, not for how long. Like I said, weather balloon flight time's usually about 90 minutes. Because that sucker, it reaches whatever altitude is, and it usually pops. They have competitions for weather balloons. This is not a weather balloon. So, that's my take. That's my 2 cents. You can, you know, say I'm full of it and say I'm a nincompoop. But that's my take. Hopefully this gives you guys a little bit more education on what we got here. So this is Mikey V signing off. We'll catch you later.